What have I done? What have I become? I can't describe this. This is my mid-mic crisis.
Hello and welcome to the Mid-Mic Crisis. I am Bunchu alongside my esteemed human co-host and colleague, Chamber. Chamber, how you doing, buddy?
I am doing well. It's back to school day.
Oh, today?
For the kids. Today was back to school day. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's kind of like a little holiday in the house. You know, kids are going back to school.
I get it. Yeah.
They're excited, and just came back from picking them up, and they had fun. They had fun. It was all right. My oldest is in the 6th grade, and my youngest just started the 1st grade. So
wow,
it's crazy stuff, man. I remember when they were popping out of my wife, and now they're just milking me for every penny I'm worth.
Wow. Yeah. Well, very apt timing for our discussion today. We'll be talking a whole episode of Dad Talk today. So that's going to be fun. My little guy is starting preschool next week, which is exciting and crazy. And I can't believe it myself. Time is just flying. Time is a flat circle. Sorry.
Well, it's also a fat for me. It's a fat circle also.
But anyway, what else is new? Anything?
Nothing. Just I think my wife's thinking about going back to work. So, I think she's going to get into the family business. So we've been talking about that a little bit.
What are you guys, fucking Ozark 2 Electric Boogaloo up there?
I was gonna work at a weed store. I think the end goal is we're gonna open up our own at some point, maybe a year or two.
Really? A little mom and pop slop shop.
Yeah, a little mom and pop slop pot shop.
Yeah, I dig it. Yeah. I wish I was quick-witted enough right now to just rattle off a bunch of names for you.
I think it's gonna be like Chamber. It'll be Chamber because. It'll be something. It'll be like Green Chamber or like you know what I mean? Like it'll be something. It'll be Chamber Incorporated.
I dig it. What is the cost to open up a store of that nature? I feel like you need a little more bull market.
I mean, that's what I was saying. Like a year or two would be great. A nice bull market would make the transition very easy. But however, like in Canada, especially where I live in Ontario, like it's crazy the amount of weed stores there are. So I'm waiting for the pullback in the number of weed stores also, and then maybe pick one up on the cheap.
You got to buy the dip.
Buy the dip. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to buy the weed store dip, I think is the plan.
That's interesting.
We'll see what happens.
I love that for you. My wife, she went to culinary school for a while. She thought she wanted to be a chef when she was younger. And her dream was always like, she wanted to open a boozy bakery. So
I love it.
And then I stopped drinking. So that's out of the question now. Maybe someday, but I don't know if she still would want to do that. But
could you work with your wife?
Yeah, I think so.
I think we can. We'll see.
Might
be a solo venture.
Yeah. No, I think we could. I definitely think we could. Definitely different skill sets. So I think that,
which is good. I think that's
right?
That's what you want.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think I'm probably more of the type A, so that might be an issue, but I don't know.
As long as she knows who the boss is, there's no problems.
Nah, we communicate very well. So
that's what I tell my wife all the time. Like, just relent to me being the alpha, and it'll be fine. She doesn't relent.
Yeah, I get it. Neither does my 3.5-year-old, and it's starting to get on my fucking nerves, I'll tell you. Holy shit. But Anyway, before we get into the main conversation today, which is dad talk, we are going to talk what specifically tech savvy parenting.
Yeah, I think that's
a millennial dad's guide.
That's correct.
Wow,
we're a couple of millennial dads.
We sure are.
I feel like that's the biggest, generation segment right now for fathers with young children is the millennials, and there's a lot of hurdles and things we need to overcome and be aware of as parents, and we're gonna maybe help some people get through that. I don't know what we're gonna do.
I mean, maybe more help myself.
Maybe. But yeah, you had something interesting. You said you were when you tell me before the show you're saving something for the show, I get excited.
Oh, I actually forgot about that. So, thank you for reminding me. But that will be during the conversation, so don't let me forget again. That will be during.
I'm very excited about this.
However, before we get into it, I do want to show you something, because so as you know, I've been running actually Payne was there. So he can attest to this. As you know, I've been running the Firebrain community that I started, the kind of the free AI learning community where I'm just sharing a bunch of cool stuff that I'm doing, cool AI stuff that I'm finding, things of that nature. Right. And part of what we do is I put on a weekly Q&A session on Tuesday mornings at 10:30 a.m. If you want to attend or if you want to be part of the community, totally free. Check out the link. It's in my Twitter bio. So at Bunchu Bets, you can get in there.
We'll also put it in the show notes too. So
yeah, we could put it in the direct link. It's just skool.com/firebrain is the link to the actual community. But we were having the coffee session this week, and we were actually building upon some stuff we did the week prior, which was we've been talking a lot about social media content creation, repurposing, how you can do that with AI and really kind of supercharge the output you could put out. And I think Chamber, we could talk about this in a second as well. We've been doing that with the show, and it's been going quite well. But so we started talking last week about automated LinkedIn posting, which I built an automation for. And then that led to a conversation with our friends Outer Lumen and Frank about, could you build something that replies as well? And so I looked into doing that for LinkedIn, and that conversation actually led to, could you build something that would be reply guy-esque for Twitter? And so I built it, and then there was a little more to that story. So let me show you what I built, because it's kind of cool. Yeah. So let me share my screen here.
I knew when you were reply guying my tweets, because I would tweet something that I know you had no frame of reference for, and your replies were very thorough. I'm like, he doesn't know what I'm talking about.
100%, right? So, okay. So there's two things that I built, and we'll talk about both of them. But the first one here is so you know how Elon has gated the Twitter API now. You now have to pay for it, and you have to pay
insane
$100 a month for it. So it's not exactly
That's
cheap.
Crazy to me.
Yeah, it's not exactly cheap.
$100 a month
for the Twitter API access, and you know why?
Which used to be free.
Yes, you know why he did that, right?
Because he's not making any money anywhere else, is what I'm assuming?
I think it was because all these AI companies were scraping Twitter for training data, and he wants to guard the training data. And as well, so it's basically $100 a month, and the next tier up is $5,000 a month. So you ain't scraping it unless you're paying him, right? So anyway, so that means you can't just build something that auto replies for the normal person, because most people are not going to pay the $100 a month, right?
Right.
So I had to go an alternate route. So do you see this little blue box up in the top corner?
Yes, it says add comment.
Yes. So I built this little Twitter Chrome extension. So Google Chrome extension
Yeah.
that built it with AI in probably like 15 minutes.
Okay.
And it takes a tweet. It goes out to a webhook that takes the tweet and all the comments.
Right.
So you have the full context of the conversation, and then gives you a series of replies. So boom, I've got 3 replies here that I can pick.
And it looks like
And
a short one, a medium one, and a long one. Is that what you
yes,
get every
and
time?
I'll go into this in a second of what the responses are like. But yeah, so then I post that, and now it's replied, right? So you could, in theory, just come through here. Let's reply to us because we're so cool. Watching myself on screen. Tech-savvy parenting is the future. Hell yeah. There we go. But well, so now there's an extra piece of this, right? So the replies, you know, when you're doing this, you don't want you don't want to sound like everybody else or sound
Right.
like AI, right?
Correct.
So I actually went into my settings here, and if you see here, you can download an archive of your Twitter data.
Wow.
And that means you could get your history of every tweet you've ever quote, right? And I ran that through this big 10-part long thing to basically create my Twitter tone of voice. And it gave me this big long document of types of vocabulary I use, sentence structure, colloquialisms, all of this stuff. So those replies are actually based on all of my Twitter history.
And you don't need to pay the $100 a month for this?
No, you could just run it through my prompts, and I can give you this Twitter extension, and you could just go crazy.
Unbelievable.
I mean, people are making money reply guying, right? Like the strategy is, okay, I'm going to go to these huge influencers that get tons of engagement. I'm going to reply underneath, and that's how I'm going to rack up impressions, right?
But there's no way to automate it. You physically have to go in and...
Well, not without access to the API. So
correct. Yeah.
The other thing that I built, and this was the one further, right? So
right.
I paid for the API to do this test because I wanted to do a bunch of things. I wanted to scrape a Twitter list for guests for our show that we could reach out to, all of this stuff. So I bought the API for a month to do all these experiments. And I built a reply guy Twitter bot that literally will monitor anybody's feed that you want.
Yeah.
And it does this same thing. It takes the prompts, it takes all the comments, it takes my tone of voice thing, and then it'll create a reply. And then it actually says, check this response against your, created replies and choose the one that adds the most value to the conversation. And then it automatically replies. So that's what I was replying to you with the other day, was the auto reply one, right? And so on our conversation we were having on the coffee community thing this weekend or this week was, all right, well, if you could auto reply, you can auto post. And if you can create your own persona, why couldn't you create a new persona, right? Under the same workflow, right? So here's the challenge for you. Okay. In the next 2 days, I will be creating a brand new Twitter account.
Okay.
I'm going to create a persona. I'm going to create a tone of voice. I've already picked 3 or 4 Twitter accounts that I like, that I scraped all their tweets. So I'm going to build this persona based on a couple different ones. And your job is to catch me. Your job is to identify the alt. And so by next
I would
week,
recommend don't interact with any of my tweets as that other one.
No, because no one interacts with your tweets anyway.
Exactly. So I'll just know immediately. Giveaway. I'm like, bingo, found you.
Absolute dead giveaway. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to create the alt account. I'm going to create a new persona for it. And I'm going to see, one, if I could grow it just automatically on total autopilot.
Yeah.
And then 2, you've got to catch me. That's the rules.
Catch me if you can. I'm Tom Hanks. You're Leonardo DiCaprio.
Wow.
Oh. That's not Tom Hanks at all.
well, he's in that movie. He's the dad.
Oh, he is the dad. You're right. I forgot.
Where you going tonight? Tahiti, Hawaii. Two mice fell into a bucket of cream.
This is the worst Tom Hanks impression I've ever heard.
I'm certainly no AI Tom Hanks, which we talked about on the Daily Bite.
Yeah.
All right. So that was my
I love it.
That was
this
my
is gonna be
preamble. Great. Yeah. So that's what I've been up to, is building Twitter bots. And so anyway, if you want the this version, come hang out in the Firebrain community. I'll show you again how it works. If you want this version and just want to be reply guying all over the place, here you go. Our good friend Strawberry Man.
Friend of the show.
Friend of the show, Strawberry Man. Scaling alone isn't enough. Having a well thought out strategy is crucial. Do you agree? Strawberry Man, interact with me.
He will agree.
He will agree. He will. Well, he won't. He said scale is all you need. So he ain't going
He's not going to agree. Never mind.
Maybe he's going to unfollow me now. Oh, man. Anyway, that's how it works. If you want access to that, come hit us up in the Firebrain community, and we'll get you that. But shall we?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. We're going.
Dad talk! Dad talk! It's time for some dad talk!
All right, Chamber, we are talking about tech savvy parenting today.
Yeah, I mean, we were kind of, honestly, last episode, we hinted on it with my tips for, sharing old devices and disconnecting accounts. So your history doesn't show up on your kid's account.
First of all, pro move. You gotta have it. If you
Absolutely. So we kind of started the conversation there, but I think, I mean, as jokingly as we were talking about that, there are a lot of things like your kids, you got a kid going into pre-K. Is that what you call it?
Yep.
He may not be as involved in tech as my kids are, but he's like not very far from it. So there's going to be some things that I've dealt with that I might be able to help you out with. And honestly, I'm like figuring this out by the seat of my pants at this point, because there is so much. They're so plugged in. I mean, some people may look down on it, but like my kids have had iPads since they were like 2-3 years old. Like, I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying.
Well, that's kind of the point of the conversation, right? Like,
yeah.
It's
what it is.
Yeah. And I mean, that's just like old tech, right?
Yeah, that's just step one. Yeah.
That's not even like the where we're going of it.
Correct.
All, which is going to be really weird in the AI future.
Totally.
Right?
Totally.
So where do you want to start here? And here's the reference here. So if you go to our new website, midmiccrisis.com, you can find, by the way, lots of great new blog posts. We have our entire blog section here on the website, and we put out a bunch of stuff this week, huh?
Yeah, we did. Cryptocurrency in the media. We did the dad stuff, a lot of AI stuff, a lot of stuff that intertwines a lot of the things we talk about, right? Like whether it's AI and crypto, tech stuff with parenting stuff. We'll try to cross-reference a bunch of different topics together, because I know a lot of the people that listen to the show and participate are kind of in the same place we are, right? A lot of them are going to be new parents. We got Payne. He's now part of the team. But yeah, just these guys, because I invite all the women that want to listen to the show to come, but I see the demographics in every single chart that I pull up, and it's like 90-10. So it's a lot of dudes. It's a lot of millennial.
Why?
It's a lot of millennial dudes that are parents and that share a lot of the same stuff, right? Like a lot of new tech stuff. We're the generation that grew up with all the new tech. We're the generation that's adjusting the quickest to new technology, and that's not going to change. And we have to be the generations that are going to be the parents that are going to be prepared to adjust with their kids as they get older, right? So I think a lot of it, encapsulates that in a lot of what we talk about.
Yeah, and I think the AI world of it all is going to make things even
Totally.
more difficult. It's going to make it even more ubiquitous, and they're almost not going to be able to. You're not going to be able to dodge it or live without it.
No,
or
I mean,
things like
just in like the last week, just speaking for myself, like I've used ChatGPT sporadically over the last, 6 to 12 months. But the last week I really kind of dialed in and used it as an assistant, and it was a game changer. Like,
yeah,
and our kids are going to be 10 times more invested in these types of things than we are, right? So yeah, we need to stay ahead of the curve as much as possible, so then we can kind of teach them properly. Because the last thing you want is your 8-year-old, I'm talking to you, Bunch, and 5 years from now, outpacing you, and not for any sense of like, oh, my kid's better than me at this, but in the sense that like it's an 8-year-old trying to deal with this, and I'm a 40-year-old. I'm sure you'll be close to that.
Yeah, you're a Sigma with Skibbity Ohio Riz,
right? Exactly.
And yeah, and the kid's lapping you just.
But but I'm saying, like, even more seriously, like an adult needs to be able to show their child how to use these things. A child shouldn't be showing their parents how to use these things. You know what I mean? As much as possible.
I feel like that's kind of not a hot take, but I think that often it isn't that way, right?
Well, I think with our generation specifically, we've taught our parents so many things. But at the time when we were 8, 9, and 10 years old, I think the world was a little bit different. Like, we were still kind of early days of the internet, early days of like cell phones, but like we're past that. We need to kind of, at least from what I think, I need to try to stay ahead of it as much as I can, so I can be educated. So when my kids are discussing these things, or like, trying out these new devices or apps or what have you, I need to be somewhat knowledgeable of what's happening. So I think that's the whole point of what we're trying to do here.
Well, I think that is a good lead in to the first point here, which is embrace technology and not fear it. I feel like many out there are resistant to it, and I think they are extra resistant of it around their children. Like, there's this big stigma around screen time, right? Like,
right,
all the talk
Stupid.
is about screen time this, screen time that, screen time this, screen time that, right? So
right.
What is your approach to screen time?
Listen, for people that say, by the way, on the Daily Bite, I say listen all the time, and I don't realize how much I say listen, and it catches my essence perfectly. But listen, if you were to take, like, I don't know, like when you were 10 years old, we'll say, like, I'm assuming you had like some sort of computer or some sort of video game.
Yeah, when I was 10, we had like the house computer.
Right. I was just like, I mean, I was a little bit older, but yes, same thing. So house computer, TV, and then like a video game console. Okay. Right. Like, those are usually the 3 things we had. And if you were to take the time I was in front of my home computer, my TV, watching like VHS or DVD movies, or playing video games, I guarantee it's no different, the same amount of time than my kid spends on her iPad or on her phone on YouTube or playing Roblox. You know what I mean? Like, it has, I can't imagine it's any different. So I feel like that's a non-starter. Like, when people say, oh, screen time, I'm like, well, unless you were a kid that didn't watch TV or play video games or have a home computer, then I guess so. Then you have a point. But if you did, it's invalid point.
Yeah, I would say with anything,
right,
it's more about how you implement it and using it responsibly, right? Like, you don't want your kid having free reign on YouTube or their iPad or whatever at certain ages with certain content, and you need to be using all of those content filters and things like that. But this idea that my kid's not going to use an iPad because it's a screen, and I don't want them to ever have a screen, I think is crazy, right? And so like I think also I have a much different perspective on this than most people, probably just because of the industry in which we work, right? Like
totally.
we are into the crypto space, the AI space, the tech space, all of that stuff. And like, it's my life, right? Like, so like I am on technology all the time, probably to a fault at sometimes, right? Like, but that's kind of also the point. But there's no way I'm going to let my kid fall behind in that area
Absolutely.
when I feel like I know what's coming, right?
And I mean, yeah, like, and on top of that, you don't want to let them fall behind, but you also don't want them to get ahead of you so far that you don't know what they're doing at a certain point. Because that's my big fear is like, oh, they're just going to lap me and they're going to be doing things that I don't even know how to address or see or monitor. You know what I mean? So those are the types of things I kind of worry about.
So do you monitor and set some sorts of boundaries, and what do you do there? How do you approach that?
That's a good question. So for example, like my oldest, she has her own cell phone. She has a TikTok account. She likes to make TikToks with her friends. The nice thing, you know what, and I tell a lot of parents this, the nice thing with TikTok is you can create a kid, like they can create their own account, but you can tether it to your account. So as long as you're on TikTok, you can have basically you connect them through like a QR code, and then you can monitor their screen time. You can you have to approve any friends that they add, anybody that they're looking to talk to, you have to approve everything. So I have a list of their entire friend. I have like a report that comes every week of how much time they're spending on TikTok. So yeah, I mean, TikTok's I think it's a really, really good app for kids because of that. You know,
that's a hot take. I feel
it really, I mean, it's better than Instagram. It's better than Snapchat because the kids are on Snapchat too.
I feel like almost anything is better than Snapchat.
Yeah, Snapchat's a problem.
Snapchat is a cesspool.
But like, I mean, my kid plays Fortnite, and like there's a bunch of games they play where, she's like yelling at some kid. I'm like, who's that kid? I haven't heard that voice before. And she's playing with some kid from Texas. And I'm like, so even on like Nintendo, I really have to like make a point to ask who they're playing with. I can't monitor that. So yeah, like that's why I thought TikTok was honestly one of the better apps for that, because then they're only seeing like kid level stuff. For kids your age, there's YouTube Kids, which is fine. It's not the best. It's really for like, I would say like 5 and under. Like once you get north of 5, I'm like, it's kind of shitty for those kids. So then they have to go to regular YouTube, and it's a little bit more difficult to monitor like what they see there. So
we're mostly a Netflix, Disney Plus household.
Yeah, even Disney Plus, like I was trying to find, so like we each have our own, like Amber and I have ours, my oldest daughter has hers and my youngest daughter has her account. But my youngest daughter has a kid account, and she's like, oh, I want to watch Up, the Disney movie Up. And you couldn't watch it on the kid version of Disney Plus. I'm like, oh, I'm like, there's like a bunch of like Disney movies you can't watch on the kid Disney, which I was kind of surprised with. So yeah, they get to a certain age. I would say like 5, 6, 7, where they feel they're too young, they're too old for the young kid stuff. And then you kind of have to let them graduate, but it's very difficult to monitor after that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I think there's something interesting about like this idea of digital or tech citizenship, right? Like,
yeah,
you have, I think most of us probably have like 2 lives, right? You have your IRL and you have your digital social media life, right? And they're
who's the person you think of in our world when you think of like 2 separate lives? Because there's one guy that comes to mind for me, and it's JP. I think of the dichotomy between the JP IRL and the JP that lives online couldn't be further apart. So shout out JP. I love you. I know how much of a sweetie you are, and your online persona is not believable to me anymore.
But sometimes, like, I don't know, I even feel this way where I like feel like I'm two totally separate people, not the way I act per se, but the way that like I like every day I've almost like logged in, right? And you're like, oh, I live here now between these hours in terms of like I'm always reachable. I'm on Twitter, I'm on Discord.
It's almost like
all these places.
It's almost like a metaverse in a way. You know what I mean? Really.
That's what it feels like. It feels like I come down here every day. I put on a headset and I'm locked into this little metaverse for, 8 hours a day. And then I go upstairs and now it's attached to my hand and on the phone. Right. But like, I think it's, I think like this idea of digital citizenship is interesting because it's just going to get more and more prevalent as we like get this, ubiquitous AI world, right? So, I really think about this in terms of like education for our kids as well. Like, how is the education landscape going to change as our kids grow up? Like, yours are in the middle of it now, but by the time yours are in high school,
I had to shave my kids' legs this morning before we left for school. Speaking of going
to do with tech,
they were changing. They were
it's
going
electric.
It's
an electric shaver.
Yeah. But they were also going through the shit. She's like, Dad, I can't go out like this, because she was wearing shorts and she thought that.
Neil said he built a 5th grade tutor for his son, which
really
I think is super cool. So I'll talk about some of that stuff in a second and like practical ways you can use technology for education. But I think like the education stuff is really important because I think like you're gonna have this issue soon where your kid's gonna pretend, or you're probably gonna want to use AI to do homework or help with those types of things. And there's going to be this balance of how you use it for school versus what's allowed to be used at school versus how you think it should be used versus and there's this kind of balance of all of those things, right? And
I think by the time, I think it's interesting. I think right now, so for my oldest daughter, I think we're so far ahead, like, me and her, and again, you know how much AI savvy I have, which, in the grand scheme of things isn't all that much, but it's significantly more than the regular person. Mm-hmm. And I think right now teachers are just scratching the surface on trying to like sift out AI produced homework. So I would say like for the next 2 to 3 years, you can go hog wild as much as you want. Like you as a parent, you're going to have to be in charge of what you think is ethically, you know what I mean? Like ethically the right thing to do, what's in the best interest long-term for your child. But if you'll be able to use it as much or as little as you want for the next 2 to 3 years. I think we're a couple of years away from teachers really figuring out what's up.
Well, I think there's also this idea of like where schools and education are at right now with the technology, right? Like when it first came out 18 months ago, it was ban. Oh, I need to.
But how do you ban it? Like
you can't. So there's I covered this on the Firebrain podcast I do every day which was basically originally they started trying to build these like AI text detection systems, like, how can I detect if a paper was written by AI? And what was happening was first of all, everything was very unreliable for that. And so you'd have teachers trying to run stuff through these programs, what I would call irresponsibly, right? And it would mark something as AI that wasn't written by AI, and the kid would get an F, and there's no way to prove you're not, right? So like who's got the burden of proof? And now I feel like we're slowly getting to this point where it's less about catching you cheating with it or considering it cheating, and more about setting boundaries and guidelines on how to use it, right? And if that becomes the case, then I think we're in much better shape. However, I did read an article recently that OpenAI has a very robust detection system that they have not released into the world because they
Really?
they don't want it to do, they don't want it to kind of like stifle people using it, right?
Right. No,
Using
totally.
AI. But apparently they have this like text watermarking system, right? So it's like there's a watermark somewhere on probably all the stuff you generate.
Pecans.
Yeah, right. Like, and that's apparently that's what their system does. I've read about it a couple of weeks ago, but yeah, I mean, I just think the whole education system, by the time my kids are in college age, is going to be so flipped on its head that like, or an even worse problem is it doesn't change and it doesn't adapt, and you risk, if you're not being proactive as a parent about how the technology is evolving, you risk them falling way behind because they're in a school system that is not embracing it, right?
Totally.
And so I think there's like a ton of stuff there that's really important and interesting.
No, I agree 100%. And I think, at least right now, for what it is, and by the time my kid's in high school, it could be very different. But like, if you really wanted ChatGPT to write you a book report on something, it would be fairly, it'll be good, but it won't be like high school, like you know what I mean, like 11th grade good.
Look, you still have to. I mean,
you know what I mean?
I use
my sixth
AI
grader can get away
every
with it.
single day to put out content in terms of like a podcast, in terms of the Daily Bite, in terms of all of that stuff. And I'll like, it's not enter something in a text box, hit submit, and you have something good.
Right.
It's work to get good content, and our insights, opinions, and tone of voice are all injected in that at the end of the day.
And the prompts too.
Well, that's what I mean, because of
like,
how intense the prompts have to be to get it to a point where it's not just easily recognizable, right? And it's not because you're trying to cheat the system, it's because you're trying to actually amplify how much output you can do, not because you're trying to shortcut. You know what I mean?
Correct. Yeah. Totally.
Yeah, interesting. So I think like education is going to be such a huge thing, and how you approach that with your kids is going to be a really interesting spot in the future. Like, I'll tell you right now, like I use AI already with my 3.5-year-old, right?
And what do you do with that? Like what?
Well, I use it every single day, multiple times a day with him. And it started as, well, I think it's really impactful for him, because what I've noticed is it's actually really bringing out his creativity, which is really
so are you
super cool.
Like creating pictures based on prompts?
Yeah, so what we do every day, I actually started it because I was like, all right, this and actually this will be the segue of the thing that I forgot about before, because now I just got reminded, and it's actually perfect here. So it actually started because he like wasn't eating his dinner at the table. He's always putting up a fuss about mealtime, blah, blah, blah. And so
where does he want to eat dinner? In front of the TV? Like,
no, he doesn't want to eat dinner.
Oh,
he doesn't want to eat dinner. It's not about where, it's about he doesn't want to eat. And so I was trying to kind of put some different perspective on it for him, make it more entertaining or whatever. I was like, oh, well, how about this? Do you want to hear a story about how you're a superhero and eating your dinner makes you super strong. He's like, yeah. So I went to ChatGPT voice mode. I said, hey, tell me a story about superhero Graham. And he eats it, the way he gets strong superpowers is by eating his dinner, blah, blah, blah. And then draw me a picture after. And so it writes you a story, and then it'll speak you the story, right? So like it'll tell the story. And so we're listening to it at dinner, and all of a sudden he's like enthralled, and not only paying attention to the story, but he's also just distracted, and he's shoving food into his mouth. And I'm like, interesting. And he really enjoyed that. And so now all the time he's like, oh, can we do stories? Can we do stories? And so he makes up the stories. He decides what he wants the story to be about. And sometimes we just do pictures because he likes to do the pictures. But at the end of every story, we ask it to make a picture. And what I have found is his creativity is expanding, right? Like the thing, and what's cool about it is he's having to speak it into existence. He's having to voice it, right? So he's becoming articulate to be able to tell me what he wants the story to be about, or tell it what he wants the story to be about.
That's
or what
very
he wants
interesting
in the picture. And I think the impact has been really cool. I also think there's this other weird thing that I've noticed recently, which is in all the stories, he adds his baby brother in. And it's always about, but real life, they fight and bicker and do things and all the time. And it's always a battle. It's always this constant, like, if he has a toy, Graham has to have it, all this stuff. And since he's hearing these stories now that he's adding his baby brother in, and it's usually him helping him in some way throughout the story, he's actually become more helpful. And to
now, is the story generating, is ChatGPT generating a story where he's doing that, or is he prompting?
No, it's usually like, include my baby brother, and then ChatGPT will have it be like, okay, Graham is the guard, or like the the helper of,
I like it.
And so he's actually become more helpful to his brother. So I thought that was really interesting impact as well. But the thing I was telling you before, I've never seen ChatGPT actually do this. So I have a thread, chat in ChatGPT of, let's see if I can bring it up on screen.
That's funny. I wanted to ask you how you have your ChatGPT set up. Like, do you start a new chat for every question?
It's a disaster.
I have a mid-mic crisis chat, and everything happens. Everything occurs in there.
Oh, just one chat for everything?
Yes. Like, at least for the shows. I have a different one for the blogs.
Yeah. So I have, most of the time I'm starting new chats because I don't like it to get jumbled with context. But
that's what I found that's happened.
But for the stuff with my son, we keep the same story thread. And hold on, I'll show you that right now. So I'll show you like the stories that we do. And now each one of these, again, is like, we're speaking the story. And you can see, like, these are all the things he wanted to be fixing a water slide in the rain. Like, that's what he wanted to be doing. And but it's speaking these stories to us and all of that, fun stuff, right? So this is the massive thread I have of all the stuff, and everyone, he's a superhero. And you can see everything is superhero Graham, superhero Graham, superhero Graham. But my point about the things I had never seen before, I had never seen it keep memory from chat to chat. So like, I started a new chat for this show, and I had it read our article and suggest me AI things I could do with my kids. And it referenced superhero Graham, which is so crazy, which means it has the memory of it from
I've noticed
chat, which I've never seen before.
I've noticed that in ours, So like I started a new chat and I'm like, oh, I'm like, I wonder what it knows. So like, so I asked ChatGPT, I'm like, who is, and then I gave my full name. And then it gives some information. I'm like, okay. I'm like, you could definitely, like, you could tell that was pulled from like the internet and like, but also from past, I don't know if I mentioned, I used it for my like year-end review.
Yeah, you did.
So it had like there was stuff from the year-end review in it. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And then I'm like, I wonder what they think about you.
That's a new chat. Those are two separate chats.
Brand new chat.
Interesting.
So then I asked, who are you? Like I put your real name in, and it said you were the CEO of my company that I work for, IRL. And I'm like, that's not correct. I thought like, oh, that's funny. I'm like, that's not correct, ChatGPT. But
that's hilarious.
I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, but that was the first time I'd seen it have like memory from chat to chat, which is crazy actually. So maybe some things happening under the hood, some strawberry stuff. But anyway, yeah, so that's how I use it every single day with my kid, and he loves it. And I've seen really interesting observations from that. And he wants to do it every night before bed. It's just, it's fun. It's cool. And I don't feel like I'm outsourcing my parenting. I'm actually using it as
enhancing.
A tool.
Yeah.
And I think like that's another big thing though, right? Like you as the parent have to be responsible about how you're using this stuff and be honest with yourself about why and how you're using it, right? It's like,
well, I think that's a good point. Like in the article, you mentioned having like tech-free zones and like maybe like off time. Do you guys do stuff like that where it's just like, let's just all like no TVs on? No.
Oh yeah. For most of the day, like he doesn't have any screen.
But like for all of you guys, you know what I mean? Like that's
like no like stuff. I mean, most of the time it's no phones at dinner unless we're like doing a story that he, I allow him to do. It's like stuff like that. And yeah, so like the tech-free zones are, I think, a must. But I think my point was like, you need to be honest with yourself about how and why you're using the tech, right? Are you giving your kid an iPad to,
shut them up for 30 minutes?
Right.
Which is perfectly fine, by the way.
It's fine, but you have to be honest with yourself that that's why you're doing it, because and not overdo that, right? Totally. Because there's a time and a place for that as well, right? Like
100%.
You're not parenting when you do that without being honest with yourself about why you're doing it. If you're not self-aware that you're doing that, then it's a problem. You know what I mean?
Especially if we're talking about like late August and the like I have zero blame on any parents for end of August tactics.
My kid's 3.5, and she said to me today, she's like he's just getting over like he doesn't need a nap anymore, and she's like, I can't take no nap Graham. She's like, no nap Graham is not a thing that I am interested in. And so those breaks are necessary, right? So anyway, yeah, we got 10 minutes left. This has been a good discussion. I've got a list of some options or things here you could use AI for with your children. Are you interested?
I'm very interested, because I was actually thinking my youngest daughter loves doing trivia. She's very, very smart, and she likes doing trivia. And I think I'm going to start using ChatGPT during dinner time, because that's when she likes doing trivia. And I'm always like searching for like good trivia stuff.
Just use voice mode.
Yes.
Say, hey, give me some trivia questions about this topic. Let her pick the topic and have it read you the questions. And what's going to be really cool is when advanced voice mode comes out and it can like interact with you in real time, because now there's kind of the delay, right? Where it's like, okay, it waits for you to respond and it will stop responding itself if there's this time gap or whatever. And it kind of sometimes gets annoying. But the other thing that I do with my kid too is every night at bedtime, I always ask him before we go to bed, do you have any questions? and just like, that's it, open-ended. Do you have any questions? Do you have anything you want to ask
The
me?
slippery slope.
Well, it's great because you get to know what he's thinking about, right? And it's like the things it brings so much like curiosity out of him, and he's always asking things like, where does this come from? How do we get this? How does this happen? How does this work? All this kind of, stuff. And so like, I am only so knowledgeable, right? So things I have trouble explaining sometimes, I will start a chat conversation and have him ask ChatGPT. And and I tell it like, hey, me and Graham are here, and it knows that Graham's 3.5, and so it has the context of, okay, the explanation should be children like and all that and short, and if I can't answer the question, it answers the question, and it's really fun, and it kind of goes back and forth with him, and he enjoys that as well. So that's another fun way that I use it. But okay, I've got a couple here. So we've already covered create AI bedtime stories, AI powered art creation. The next one here, Chamber, the AI Quizmaster, interactive learning games with AI. That's a good one. I think one that your kids would probably love at their age, and I do this with my kid too, is make up songs. So you're the Udio master.
I am the Udio master, yes.
And so I've done this with my kid too, where it's like, hey, instead of, hey, do you want to make a story? It's, hey, do you want to make a song? And it's like, we've done things about eating hot dogs and shit. Like, it's whatever. He wanted to do a car one, and they come out really good, and they're a lot of fun. So that's another one that we've done.
Mine are just going to be diarrhea songs, barfing. Hey, man,
see if it can do it. Share them out.
They love it.
Your job now for the next week is only put out songs that your kids have created.
All right. And also find fake you on Twitter.
Find fake me. Well, I'll let you know when that's live. That one's not live yet, but fake me, that's definitely one. I'm trying to see if I should tip it off in any way. Like, should
don't
create a PFP that looks like my art style or something? No. I don't think I should.
Try to make it difficult.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So then next one here, AI storytelling for family games. Choose your own adventure. That's fun. Use AI chatbot to create a live choose your own adventure game where the kids can make decisions on how the story unfolds.
I like it.
Sounds like a fun one. AI powered scavenger hunts. Interesting. Smart assist led hunt. Design a scavenger hunt with the help of AI assistant, which gives clues based on location. And
we're gonna have an article on this on the blog, by the way, later this week.
I'll just drop this entire list in the chat, and you can make a blog format.
Yeah, well, because this is good. This is fantastic. This is what people want.
This is well, I don't have Nitro, so I'll have to paste this in.
You don't have Nitro? No, you don't have another monthly?
Oh God, dude, I'm stacking them all up, dude. With this AI stuff, they just keep racking up. It's insane.
My wife asked me if we had Paramount Plus the other day. I almost jumped out of the house.
You're like, we? I've been paying for it for 10 years.
First time I should get the app.
Yeah. So I like this one. This one's like kind of a hybrid, but it goes back to the education comment, right? I think that if AI is embraced properly in schools, like personalized learning with AI, right? Where you've got your own learning assistant, right? I think this is going to be such a huge unlock when people adopt this, because everyone learns differently. Everyone's at a different spot. Your learning in the future is going to be hyper personalized, right?
Totally.
To the things you excel, the modality you excel at learning at, right? Like some people really like to learn by reading. Some people learn by doing. Some people learn by getting questions asked to them. Some people learn by video. You're going to be able to do all of that stuff, right?
Yeah.
That's probably the best examples from this list. But this was a fun conversation. ZG says losing nap time is devastating. Who, for me or the kid? Because I could use a fucking nap, I'll tell you.
I feel like when they lose a nap, the adult should gain a nap.
Yeah, I think that's
that?
the right way to do it. Here's your iPad, kid. Daddy's going to snooze.
They never let you
call me
snooze.
if the house is on fire.
Oh, they're the worst.
Anyway, all right. Shall we? Was there anything else you wanted to cover before?
No,
I
think that was good.
Here?
I think
All
we
right.
hit on some good things for people.
Well, then it's time for our final segment of the episode. 1 minute of pain.
He's not looking for any fame. It's too late to hide time for 1 minute of pain. 1 minute of pain.
Whoops.
I didn't know who that was.
Dude, I'm always bopping to these tracks.
No, they're great.
We are here with producer Payne. Payne, I don't know if you know this, but this is actually our gift to you this episode. It's for becoming a new father. This is our one and only gift from you. So don't expect anything else. This is it. This is
Never have. Chamber told me early on that you will wish you were not here every day.
It's my promise to you.
Yeah.
That's actually how I feel about my life.
I told them the same thing when we first spoke.
Yes. Well, as a brand new father, Payne, how did this episode strike you, and what have you been thinking about now having a little one in the world in terms of all this tech advancement that we see every day?
I honestly feel behind the curve. I love technology, I love knowledge and trying to learn, but I feel like I'm having a hard time finding time to really deep dive into it. I'm always looking at your stuff and Firebrain AI. I try to get in the Mid-Mic Daily Bites. Being a part of this show also helps me a ton get the information, but I'm just like, there's so much and so little time.
Listen, I'll give you a little advice, because I've found just being in the same vicinity as Bunch, as somebody that knows a lot of stuff, you just learn. You will take the very bare minimum of what he knows, and you will apply it outside of this world that we live in, and people will think you're a genius. Like, people think I'm an AI genius.
Do people think I'm a genius? Because that's a terrible thing.
I think you are, and just by me knowing you and just being around, I get 10% of it, and then I spread that around, and people think I'm a genius.
It only takes you a year to adopt the things that I tell you, though.
Yeah, that's true. Still better than most, I would say.
That's
still
funny.
Better than most.
Well, I appreciate those that sentiment, because I also feel like I'm an idiot and behind the curve. So that just means there's levels. Well, that just means there's levels to all of this. And I actually think that most people appreciate learning from those who are, 1 or 2 steps ahead and not necessarily experts, right? It's aspirational. Sure. It feels practical and realistic. So I'm just trying to level. I've got the 1% every day thing I'm trying to do, but who knows? But Payne, before we get out of here, though, like, how do you feel your philosophy around, how technology and parenting is going to be? Obviously, you're just a couple weeks in, but you're probably thinking about this stuff for the last 9 months in some capacity, right?
Yeah, and we can't ever change the date of this show, because the great thing about that is the baby was born on a Wednesday, so every time it stacks up.
Wednesday. Should have called him Mike.
That would have been fantastic. But no, I'm a big proponent of technology. I would say much more so than my wife. I love all the gadgets and gizmos, and fully recognize that if we get hit with an EMP, then I'm pretty much screwed.
Yeah, that'll do it.
But yeah, I'm really excited to integrate it, and I'm trying to. They say just get started, just do something a little bit each day. So I'm really trying to. I haven't done that, but today Today is the day.
Today's the day.
Yeah, I've actually got a question typed up right now to send to you, Bunch, in a DM about trying to use Claude for something to try to code something. So, always on my mind. I'm gonna be a big tech person, and my wife's just gonna have to deal with it.
Yeah.
Make sure she didn't hear me.
Chamber, are you getting? Do you have a quick second for 1 more minute of something, or you got to go do horse stuff?
I mean, I got literally 2 more minutes.
I forgot one of the craziest things that I've been trying to work on the side is this almost like AI powered dad diary. And so like I've always wanted to kind of create this. I tried to start sending my kid emails every week, and I just am not.
This is
what? Yeah,
that's what this is.
guess. Yeah,
you never
right.
Have
to,
but
but most of the time
I have it all saved.
About,
I have it all saved.
Yeah, most of the time we're talking talking about stuff he will be embarrassed about when he's older. But that's the idea, like, I'm bad at it. I don't send him the emails, all this stuff. So I've built this whole thing of like with AI that prompts me things about the week, advice that I might be thinking about, things I liked about what they were doing, observations. I can add pictures to it. And then the whole thing gets sent to my 11 Labs voice clone and stored. So it reads it so it's going to be this whole kind of big anthology of all these thoughts read by me over the course of their life, which I think
that just sounds sad in like 50 years from now.
It will be. It'll be very sad, but at least they'll know that. At least they'll know that at some point in their lives, I cared enough about them to.
No, I can't wait for my 50-year-old kids to go back and listen to our breakdown of the coronavirus. Unraveling in January of 2020. Like that was we did a good job of documenting those times. So those are the moments I can't wait.
All right, that's gonna do it for us today. Don't forget, subscribe, check out the new website, midmiccrisis.com. Check out the daily bites. They're literally 3 to 5 to 7 minutes max of topic that we cover every day. That is our AI clones delivering that to you.
If I can listen to it 7 times, you guys can listen to it 1 time. Okay,
that's right. That's it for us today. Until next time, keep the mic hot.
What have I done? What have I become? I can't describe this.